Hello, chess students. Pastor Harris here with my handy, faithful assistants, two big, heavy knight pieces. This is Nicholas and Nate. Nicholas the Knight and Nate the Knight. They are good knights, and they're going to help me with today's lesson. See, their job is to spy out anybody who is being too silly or not paying attention and to persuade them not to be that way anymore. And you know how they can be very persuasive because they're heavy and they hurt when they try to hit you on the side of the head. Okay, I'm just joking. I would never hit my students with these. They're just here for fun. So Nicholas and Nate, you guys can sit to the side. All right, welcome back to our chess lesson. I'm just trying to be silly, keep it fun for you guys. Sorry that we have to do these lessons by video, but hopefully you're learning something. Today's lesson is a continuation of our last one, which is we're talking about the ABCs of the opening, right? And so let's take a look. Yeah, and I'll review what we talked about last time. Let's take a look. So here we are, ABCs of the opening. So let's jump in. This is part 3 of lesson 1, the ABCs of the opening. And before we jump into it, let me review what we talked about last time. We said A stands for advance your pawns to control the center of the board. We talked about what the center is, and then we talked about activating that back row, getting your pieces developed, right? That's really important strategy at the beginning of the game. B stood for be safe with your king, and not just your king, but everything. And we said C stands for control the center and capture material. So we talked more extensively about advancing pawns and activating that back row. And today we're going to delve into what it looks like to be safe with your king, and not only your king, but everything. Okay, so there are a couple ways to be safe with your king. Well, there's one way that I'm referring to here, but other ways to be safe with other pieces, and we're going to look at all of them, or 3 that I would say are the most important right now for you guys. Number 1, to be safe with your king, you have to castle early. When I say early, I mean the first 10 to 15 moves. So think of a move. Remember, white makes the first move, then black goes, and that's move 1. Okay, then white goes, black goes, that's move 2. So there's 2 halves in each move. White takes his move, then black takes his move, and then that's move 1, right? So in that first 10 to 15 moves, you should be castling. Now, some of you may be getting more advanced, and you're like, well, wait a minute. I've seen really good games by grandmasters, and they don't castle in the first 10 to 15 moves. And the truth is, it's true that if you know what you're doing and you have a good sense of timing as to when to castle and why you should castle and you should develop before you're finish developing before you castle, and these other types of things, and you have a specific game plan that involves castling a little bit later, then that's fine. That is completely fine. Or if you have a particular pawn structure that keeps your king safe and it doesn't involve castling, that's fine. This is a basic rule that I'm especially wanting beginners to follow, because generally beginners get distracted with other things and they forget to castle, and then they get checkmated pretty quickly. And so castle early, that first 10 to 15 moves. Secondly, I want you to count attackers and defenders of squares. And we're going to look at what all of these are. I'm just giving you the overview right now. So then thirdly, remember your CPR. If your piece is in trouble, do CPR. Capture. Now we've talked about CPR in the past, just about getting out of check, right? Capture, protect, or run. And it's the same way, that the same 3 words can be used to help your other pieces be safe as well, except for you can add counterattack. Sometimes in counterattacking, you can also make your pieces safe, and we'll show an example of that. And so castle early, first 10 to 15 moves, count attackers and defenders of squares, and then use CPR, capture or counterattack, protect, and run. Those are the three things. Now, let's look at some examples of these in actual games and in some tactics, and then we'll be done. Okay, so here's a little sample board we have. This is on lichess.org, and just to practice castling. And I would recommend you guys, I set you all up with a Lichess account. It's your same credentials and your same username as your chesskid.com accounts. And so I recommend doing the chess basics, the puzzles, and the practice here, because you can do as many as you want for free, and there's lessons and things embedded in. Plus, I make studies for you guys based on your games that I want you to review. So at some point, I'd like you all to be working a lot from Lichess. But anyway, this is a lesson on castling, and they're just explaining, you know, castling is a way to keep your king safe, right? And so in order to castle in this puzzle, you know, you have to castle. In order to do it, you have to move your knight first, right? Then you can castle. Now, when you castle, you remember you're moving 2 squares towards your rook, and then the rook goes on the other side of your king. So like this, 1, 2, all in one move, right? And then there's castling queenside as well. Same thing, 2, 1, 2, and then a rook on the other side. I think most of you knew that. But you have to move your pieces and get them activated in order to castle, right? That's why we're talking about activating that back row. To castle kingside in this puzzle, right, we have to start developing first. So, you know, you get your stuff developed, and then once you're developed, then you'll be able to castle. So it goes through all of those moves, but there's some special rules, right? And you guys should remember this. You can't castle through check. I can't castle right now because there's a bishop shooting an arrow right there, and there's a laser right there. I can't jump over the laser or go under it, and so I have to block or capture or do something about this bishop. Now, if my so like here's in this puzzle, they want you to block the bishop, and now, okay, assuming black has made his move, then we can castle, right? Now it's legal. Now in this situation, they're explaining that you can't castle into check either, right? If this bishop were to move and or move here, and then now it's time for the king to castle. Let's just go here. Or let's see, how do we want to do it? Let's go here. And it's time for the king to castle. It's not legal right now. We can't castle because the king would end up here and you would be in check from the knight, right? So that doesn't work. So you would have to, you know, you can't castle into check. Now you can castle because the king doesn't have to go through check or into check, all right? Now in this situation, here you have, to castle this way, you would be castling through the knight's check, right? And so you want to kill that knight first, and now you can castle. Oh, we got one other problem, right? This bishop and this bishop, right? So we can't castle through check. So at some point through the course of the game, you're going to have to deal with these bishops, but when you're no longer castling into check or through check, then it's okay to castle. So that's what castling looks like. That's king safety. And your king, I'm going to show you this screen. We'll come back to it, but your king loves to be behind your pawns like this because the king feels very safe. It can't be checked on a diagonal. The only problem in this kind of a situation is your king is vulnerable to a back rank checkmate. So you just have to watch out for that, but you can usually see that coming, and then usually you can advance a pawn to give your king an escape square. But kings like to be castled so that they can be safe. And then in the end game, they like to come out and fight for you. All right, so that's castling kingside and queenside, first 10 to 15 moves. But we said that another way to be safe with your king or with everything, the other pieces, right, is by counting attackers and defenders. That's going to be important because you want to make sure you're not going to lose material. So I'm going to show you some examples of what that looks like to count attackers and defenders. So let's do that. Okay, we are on Lichess again. We are looking at games of some highly ranked people. Neither of these two are grandmasters, but 21, 28, 2180, those are pretty high rankings. And our goal here is to just watch them play. And as they play, we can count attackers and defenders, okay? So I can still mark up the board. They can't see it, but I can see, and you can see. So let's look at this pawn here. It's attacked once by this pawn and once by this bishop, sort of after the pawn, and it's defended once by this knight, once by this rook, once by this bishop, all right? And so now black just attacked that bishop, which was defended once by the queen, but wouldn't want to lose a bishop to a pawn. And so the bishop moved, which opened up a diagonal for black's bishop. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have, anytime you're going to be playing a game and you're making moves, you have to know how many times your pieces are being attacked, how many times they're being defended. All right, this bishop is being defended by the rook and by the knight. You see that? And it's not being attacked by anyone right now. This pawn is being defended by the rook and the bishop, and it's being attacked as well by this bishop. So right now, white has control over this pawn, and this pawn's okay. Black could bring a knight to the square to attack the pawn a second time, but white has resources and things like that too. And so you constantly have to know, where are my pieces? Are they under attack or are they being defended, right? Now white has a threat in mind and we don't know exactly what it is, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to be able to see attackers and defenders. This knight is being attacked by this bishop, but it's not for free. It's being protected by a rook. So if the bishop wanted to get to a better square or a more active square, or saying, I don't want this bishop anymore, and so maybe I want to trade knights for it, then that would be okay. Now see, this knight has come into action. He wants to attack this pawn, which is being attacked twice, right? I mean, protected twice, and once and attacked twice. So is white going to save his pawn, or is he going to now move this knight and do something tricky? So you have to kind of always be mindful of your attackers and your defenders, because you don't want to lose material, okay? So we will look at some of your games and to see how well you are counting your attackers and defenders. So let's do that. Okay, actually, before I do look at your games, I want to, I misspoke there. I want to look at this puzzle here and maybe a couple of puzzles on Chess Tempo to practice the CPR. Remember, CPR is it's how you protect your pieces. You can capture, you can protect your piece, or you can run away, or you can counterattack sometimes as well. So here's a puzzle. Now let's count attackers and defenders, right? This queen is being attacked by these two rooks. So 2 times this queen is being attacked. It's being defended once, twice by when you count the bishop, and then once by the rook. But this is such a valuable piece. We don't want to lose a queen. So what do we do here? You've got a so let's just say our queen is under attack. So we can take a bishop if we want, and we can protect the queen. And now the queen's no longer under attack, but it's going to be very soon again, because black can just take that bishop. That wouldn't be a very good move, right? Let's see. You could, so that was the example. This is like blocking or protecting by blocking, right? You can protect a piece that's under attack. This is crazy. By like this bishop here is now protecting the queen. So if the rook takes, the bishop could take back. But again, it's a queen. We don't want to lose a queen, right? What else do we have? Some good examples, maybe a better example. This pawn here is under attack by a rook, but it's being defended by a knight, and a queen and a bishop, right? So look, again, we talked about counting attackers and defenders. So right now, that question is, what do we do to save our queen? Because if we don't do something, we're going to lose a queen, right? So do you just run away? And now you're gonna lose. You're gonna get back rank checkmated. No, you won't. No, you won't. He's got a dark squared bishop, but you're gonna trade off your rooks. And I just don't. I think you got a better move than that, right? Let's see. What about this diagonal right here? This knight. Can I take this knight? Well, you have to count, right? How many defenders? How many attackers? The queen's attacking, the pawn's attacking. So I could take with my queen. And then if he takes my rook on A1, then it's not a big deal because that rook is defended by my C3 bishop. And then if he takes that bishop, then this rook can take. So that rook is really okay. This queen can totally move. This queen can also go here and counterattack this rook and this pawn. And so, but I like this. What if I take this knight with my queen? Queen takes back, then I take with my pawn. And at the end of the day, I won a queen and a knight. And just, he won a queen. So we basically traded queens and then I won a knight. And I'm still attacking his rook. Who's only defended once by his other rook. So that's a good idea, I think. Now I have to look to see if there's any other good ideas. Any other good ways to save the queen? God save the queen, right? I don't like that diagonal. I think it's better to win some material here. So if I did this, black's queen would probably either trade or move to a different square. All right, so black's queen wants to trade, and then I'll take back. So I won a knight and a queen, and he just won a queen. So really, we traded queens, and I'm up 3 points from that exchange. So that's what it looks like to do CPR. We'll see more examples of it in your games, which we're going to start looking at now. So I want to start with, let's see, whose game should we start with? Let's look at this game between Carter and Sieni. All right, so we're not going through the whole game. I don't even know necessarily who won. We might see that when we get to the end, but we just want to see how well you're counting and how well you're protecting and running and or capturing, counterattacking, how well you're following these rules for being safe with your king and everything. So let's go. Sieni is black, Carter is white. Okay, let's just play. All right, so here we have already, you've got 2 pieces out. Your pawns are defended. White's pawn's not defended. Now it is. Now black's pawn is defended once by the queen. White's pawn is defended once by the bishop. Okay, so now white sets himself up for a fork. But it doesn't matter because if the pawn takes, bishop can take back. So that pawn is defended once and attacked once still. All right. Now, this was not the strongest move because now, okay, white can take that pawn back. Right now, white is up. Sorry, black is up a pawn, right? Black just took a pawn. So white has to take back in order to keep the game even. But instead of doing that, white brings out a queen. And now white's about to lose material. Oh, okay. So black should have captured, right? So this is how you get advantages. This is why I'm doing this video, because I want you guys to see there are times to just move pawns around, but there's times where you have to be attacking pieces and capturing material. and times where you have to protect your pieces. And white didn't protect his pieces there, but black gave him a break. So now black takes a pawn and white takes back. So now the game is black still up 1 pawn, but could have been down. White could have been down a whole piece. So let's look at a different game. I'm going to go through these a little faster here. This game is from Eliana and someone named Mega Slippery Prune. Nice name. All right. Eliana is playing as black. The Prune is playing as white. All right. So far, everything's fine. All right. Look at white taking over the center with these 3 pawns. Now, remember, I told you guys to play e4 or d4. So because you're going to otherwise usually end up getting yourself in trouble. Now, that pawn was under attack, but it's protected by a queen, so black didn't take. Black should have continued to develop pieces, but instead removed a piece a second time. Didn't have to do that. All right, so now we got a 4-pawn center. All right, nothing's under attack really. Do we see anything under attack? Nope, but we see a few things being defended here. Okay, let's keep playing. All right, now, black's knight is under attack. If black doesn't want to lose that knight, black's gonna have to think through some tactics. What can I do? Okay, I'm under attack. I'm being attacked once and I'm not being defended at all. So I either have to do what? I have to capture that queen. Not possible right now. I have to run away. Very possible. Or I have to protect that knight. So you could protect, for example, with a pawn, your A pawn. You could protect with your C pawn. And then if white takes, black takes back, and you're still protecting. What else? Oops, somehow I went to the end of the game. All right. I like to analyze these a lot of times on other things. So you could protect with your queen, bring your queen out, a couple different squares, but you got to protect that knight. That's a whole 3 points. You don't want to just give that knight away, but that's what black does. Black, now it would be okay if black did something that was a counterattack, where now I'm going to attack you, but black's not doing a counterattack. Black's just developing a piece, which is good normally, but right now you're about to lose material. And so that's what happened. And now white is up 3 whole points because black didn't protect a piece. So you got to count attackers and defenders, and you got to use that CPR. Okay, let's look at another example. This is a game between Magic Ruby Bird, that's Kyla, and Red Pretty Tortoise, someone I do not know. The tortoise is black, Kyla is white. And she starts off with C4, the English opening, and E4. All right, Kyla is developing pieces. Nice, I love it, I love it, I love it. All right, so even before we, look, this pawn is under attack. How many times is it being attacked? Once by the knight. How many times is it being defended? Not at all. So black defends it now, defends it with a knight. So one attacker, 1 defender. All right, probably shouldn't have moved that pawn. Now that pawn, well, still has no attack, no defenders, but it now does have an attacker, doesn't it? That bishop there, right? So you got to be careful with that. So shouldn't have advanced that pawn. You want to keep developing your pieces. And so that pawn is now taken, but it's just 1 point. You can definitely come back. Let's go a little bit longer. Got to develop the other pieces. Don't want to move twice before your pieces are developed. All right. This pawn is under attack once by the knight. It's being defended once by the queen. And let's see, what else do we have? We got this pawn is now defended twice, once by the knight, once by the pawn. Okay. So Kyla moves back. So that was a wasted move because we moved up once and then moved back. Should have developed another piece. Black is safe with the king. That's castling, being safe with your king. Very good. So this move doesn't accomplish a whole lot, but it's not under attack right now, but it's also not attacking anything. All right, so we have, all right, okay, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. Something that Kyla should have seen right here. When this bishop moved out and this knight moved out, now we've got an attack on the weakest square. That king is smothered. Because this king is not castled, this king is in danger. And Kyla didn't see that, and she moved up a pawn, and then danger comes. That's checkmate. That king is being attacked by a bishop, which is protected by its knight, and it has no defenders on that diagonal. And so that's, again, a good reason, a good point to show that we need to castle early. But we learn from our mistakes, right? I make a ton of mistakes. You know, I'm not a master or anything. I'm just a chess enthusiast who's learned a lot about it. But let's look at Sam's game. Sam and Joshua. Again, just seeing those principles in action. All right, we have a piece being attacked. That piece is that bishop is defended once by a pawn, once by a queen. It is attacking another bishop, which is defended once by a pawn. So this is still a you take me, I take you situation. All right, now that bishop moved to a square where it's being bold and it wants to attack a pawn, but that's a $3 piece trying to take a $1 pawn, right? So if that pawn takes, it doesn't matter if that bishop's defended, which, by the way, it's not. And so black in this move should, let's go back. All right, black should take that bishop, and black did not take the bishop. Black continued to develop. So Josh, Sam put his piece right in front of you saying, ooh, take me, I dare you. And that pawn was a little too timid. So the pawn should have taken the bishop. And so that bishop is still hanging there. No protectors. And you're just playing defensively. I like the king safety, and I like all of the development. That's great. Activating the back row, that's great. But when you have a piece that's just sitting there for free, it's like he's got a, you know, this pawn should be seeing this bishop as like a big piece of chicken. He wants to eat, and he's so hungry, and he hasn't eaten in weeks. And that chicken is for free. And you just eat that chicken. I don't know. I'm trying to put an image in your head of getting free pieces, right? Free points. And so black should take that pawn. Let's see. Will black eventually take that pawn? No, black's not taking the pawn. All right. So sometimes what you have in certain games is like people are just afraid to do anything. You're just both playing very defensively. And that's just not helpful. You're going to have to play offense and attack in order to win at chess. So let's look at one more. What we have here is a game between Grace and Esther. Let's go back to the beginning. Just want to look for these opening principles. Let's advancing these pawns. Yes, yes, yes. Now here's an example of a counterattack, right? So white's pawn unprotected, black's pawn unprotected. White brings out a knight. Now black's pawn is attacked once and protected 0 times. White can take that pawn. So should black play his knight there, her knight, and defend that pawn? That's possible. You could do that. Some people do that. But no, what black decides to do is to be aggressive. Now black's attacking white's pawn. So black's saying, you can take my pawn, but then I'll take yours. And that would be okay. So now we've got pawn protecting pawn, and then a bishop comes out and says, check, check, you're in check, yeah! This bishop is very aggressive, and white only simply has to get out of check. So we want to be careful not to do checks that don't serve a really strong purpose, because black could have just gone there on the first move anyway, and then on the last move anyway, and saved a tempo is what they call it. Now, let's see. Ooh, look at that pawn being aggressive. So is that a good move? All right, look at this square, this D4 square. White's attacking it once with the knight, once with the pawn. So that's twice. And if this pawn moves there, then you can even add a third defender with this queen. 3 times, black's protecting it once or attacking it once, twice. Who can win that square? White can. White advances. That's how you know it's okay to go to that square in this situation, right? What does black do? Black takes. That's okay as well, because even though black won't win all the exchanges on this square, it's okay to change a pawn for a pawn. So the pawn takes back, now black will have to move, and that's what black does, except black makes herself vulnerable for a fork. If Esther moves this pawn up, black will lose a piece. Oh, but Esther doesn't see the fork. All right, so she continues. All right, so anyway, this is another piece safety rule that I didn't really talk about, is you don't want to let a minor piece or a pawn take a major piece. So you don't want a pawn to be a bishop or a knight to be taken by a pawn, right? And you don't want a rook or a queen to be taken by a pawn or a bishop or a knight. You don't want a queen to be taken by a rook. You got to save your more expensive, more valuable pieces and protect those pieces first, right? Okay, so I think that is about all. That's all the time we have. I do have this fun puzzle. I think I will put it, I'm going to actually just show it to you real quick, and we'll see how many of you can do it. Hopefully this video is not too long, but this was a fun puzzle to create. So I want to show it. All right, so in this situation, we have black winning the game, doing pretty well, but black is going to make a mistake. So black moves the queen, so eager to check white, and it's okay because this diagonal, this king is missing his front teeth. He doesn't have any pawns in front of him, so he's vulnerable, right? So white decides he doesn't know what to do exactly, and he thinks, rather than run away, I'm going to protect. So he protects with the queen. Bang, thinking it's going to be a queen trade, but black's thinking, no, I don't want to trade queens. I don't want to trade queens. And so what happens? Black comes up to B7 and says check. And this was black's mistake. He blundered away the game right here, and didn't even realize it. Now look at white's dynamic move. White protects the king with the queen, but at the same time checks the king with the queen. This queen is attacking and counterattacking and protecting all at the same time. Now black realizes, okay, I'm either going to just give away my queen or I have to trade queen. So black realizes that and takes the queen. But look at this. Look at this X-ray attack. This rook is attacking this rook, and this rook on A8 is not defended, right? And so when black takes back with the bishop instead of the king, he does so with check, leaving this rook open. This is a discovered attack. Look at all these tactics you're learning. Now the king has to get out of check. He can't stay there. He can't take the rook. He has to get out of check. And when he does, the rook swoops in. Check. And now white is gonna win this game. Black was winning, made a mistake, and now white's winning. So I'm gonna put this puzzle in this study I'm gonna add all of you to it so that you can practice it and remember it to review the principles that we talked about in this lesson. But this video has gone on too long, and if any of you are still hanging with me, thank you. I know in class you would have to be listening, but you'd be all wiggly and fidgety by now. So anyway, good job, guys. Keep playing, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and continuing to play chess with you all. Take care.